Oh man, I'm exhausted as hell from the election, and also I've been working on 4 Riggs or Rod's Munch Jam commentaries today, so I had to take a little break from that. But anyways, it's now time for, what was it? I think it was week 10 of the 2016 NFL season, and last week I think it was my 6th straight wins week, 9-4, so won in almost 70% of my picks. And so far, with a record of 81.52, I have a win percentage of 617. And now, when you look at the playoff bracket, it's in the AFC. It's the Patriots and Raiders still with the byes, and the Broncos going to the Texans, and the Chiefs going to the Ravens. And the NFC side, the Cowboys, and now the Seahawks have the byes, with the Redskins going to the Falcons, and the Giants going to the Vikings. And for, I think, the 3rd week in a row, my pick still remains the same for Super Bowl. The Patriots beating the Cowboys. Alright, so now we get to my picks, and we'll start with tonight's game, and that's the Browns going to the Ravens. And how about this? If the Browns lose, they'll be 0-10 for the first time ever. And they've been around since 1946. So it's the first time 0-10 in 70 years. That shows how shitty they are. And of course, even if they run all the way in 0-16, get the number 1 overall pick, they'll still probably screw it up somehow, just like they always do. But you got to also remember, since 2010, when they go to the Ravens, they've had their number pretty good. I mean, they didn't win. They only won last year for the first time since 2007. But almost every one of their games against the Ravens in Baltimore went right down to the wire. Remember, from 2010 to 2012, they literally, Browns were on a final drive to possibly win. Just like in 2012, they went all the way down to the goal line. They just couldn't convert a touchdown to win it. It went right down to the wire. The games have been really, really, really close, which is quite impressive considering the fact it's at Baltimore. The Ravens, particularly in the early 2010s, were a Super Bowl contender every year, including winning in 2012. And the Browns have been so shitty, but like I said, somehow, sometimes, even though teams are really bad, they just somehow got another team's number, which is incredible to think about. And the Ravens, if they win, they'll get themselves a little bit closer lead in the AFC North, until the Steelers win. But, of course, even though I think it's going to be close, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns somehow finally did win and finally get their first win of the year, I'm going to say the Ravens will win 21-17. But to all my I'm not a Ravens fan, but all my Ravens fans in the area, don't be surprised if the Browns pull it off. And then we get to the Sunday 1 p.m. games, and we're going to start off with a game I thought would be perfect for Monday night, but nope, scheduling couldn't do that. And that's the Chiefs going to the Panthers for the first time since 2004. And the Chiefs, 6-2, whoop-de-doo. I mean, you barely beat the Jaguars at home last week. What does that got to tell about you? And the Panthers, now they've won 2 in a row. They look like they're right back in it. And I don't trust the Chiefs for the life of me, especially when they're on the road. And the Panthers, like I said, have turned around a little bit. Don't think it's going to be enough to possibly win the NFC South or even make a playoff spot. But I think the Panthers will win 31-20. And it's the Texans going to the Jaguars. And like I've been saying all year, the Texans are undefeated at home, but they're winless on the road. And not only that, they've been blown out in all their games, including getting shut out by the Patriots in week 3, for crying out loud. And Jaguars, now they've lost 2 in a row. I guess they were well overhyped. But I think last year that game went right down to the wire too, pretty much, if I'm correct. But I think it's going to be an upset. I think the Jaguars will somehow pull it off 20-13, simply because the Texans are still a shitty team that just happened to be lucky that they had 5 games to start the season. But now that it's halfway through the year, now they only get 3 home games left for the year. So let's see how well they do for the rest of the year. And then it's the Broncos going to the Saints for the first time since 2004. And as we saw, well, actually the Broncos defense actually did a pretty good job holding Derek Carr against them last Sunday. But this is not Derek Carr. Oh no, this is Drew Brees we're talking about. And that weakness on the Broncos defense still remains their secondary. So guess what? I think the Saints, even with that shitty defense of theirs too, that I'm sure Trevor Siemian and crew will probably wreck too, I think the Saints will win it 37-30. It's the Rams going to the Jets for the first time since 2008. And, oh man, I feel really bad for you Rams fans. They're being stubborn. They refuse to start Jared Goff. I mean, for crying out loud, after that after that performance against the Giants in London, how the hell can you not start him, for crying out loud? But nope, I don't know if it's Jeff Fisher or if they have a general manager or maybe the owner, but they're being extremely stubborn. Oh boy, I feel bad for you Rams fans not having to go for all that shit. And the Jets, that was a close loss to the Dolphins that they blew, but nothing better than it for them than to beat the Rams 32-17. And hopefully that loss, which I think would be like 5 in a row if they do lose, hopefully that would finally be the message for them that they need to start Jared Goff. Hey, you know what? They still have yet to do it yet, so I wouldn't be surprised if they still refuse to do it. But then we get to the next game, and that's the Falcons going to the Eagles. I think it was the first time since 2012. And of course, what an incredible win the Falcons had at the Buccaneers. And of course, the Eagles blew it against the Giants. Oh man, the Giants gave them a perfect opportunity to win it, and they fucking blew it again. Now, the Eagles actually have a pretty good history of beating the Falcons in Lincoln Financial Field. And I mean, they're not Eagles. They haven't really gotten blown out, I believe, yet this year. I think all their games were within a touchdown too. And the Falcons, I mean, I think they have one of the best scoring teams in the league, but they're also like one of the worst scoring defense in the league. They allow a shit ton of points. It's almost equal, I believe. And seeing how the history of the Eagles play against the Falcons, I think the Eagles will win it 34-28. And then it's the Bears going to the Buccaneers, and man, the Bears should just keep starting Brian Hoyer, but stubborn, and gotta keep having Jay Cutler in there. What a bust he is. Oh boy, I don't know what else to say. I mean, Buccaneers winning 24-13? I mean, come on, man. But then again, the Bears did beat them last year. So, who knows? Maybe the Bears would somehow pull it off. And it's the Packers going to the Titans for the first time since 2008. And what the hell is wrong with the Packers? I mean, they have the #1 rush defense in the league. Aaron Rodgers has thrown 20 touchdowns, for crying out loud, in just 8 games. That's on track for 40. Plus, he's only thrown 5 interceptions. And what the hell? Why are they fucking 4-4? And of course, the Titans are right there at 4-5. Who would have expected them to be here? And of course, I would probably say the Packers' run defense will hold DeMarco Murray down. That's what I said many weeks ago about them holding out Ezekiel Elliott. Only he would run 150 yards, I believe it was, on their ass. So, and of course, they're at the Titans, so maybe that run defense may not hold up too well. But of course, they still got Aaron Rodgers. And I still think this Packers team, although they are very underperforming, I still think they have a shot. And I think the Packers will somehow pull it off 27-20. But something tells me that the Titans might actually be able to pull it off too. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. It's the Vikings going to the Redskins for the first time since 2012, and I told you all, a lot of us have been saying this for the very beginning, that 5-0 start from the Vikings is just a bubble. If they had Teddy Bridgewater and AP, maybe it would be more realistic. But no, once they lose, it's gonna finally collapse. And guess what? 3 losses in a row, and possibly lose their lead to the Packers or Lions, for crying out loud, man. And of course, the Redskins, after that first game back from London after that tie against the Bengals, the Redskins have had a pretty, well, not like a good history against the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings from 2010 to 2012 made 3 straight appearances at the Redskins, and they won the first 2, although they got spanked pretty good in that 2012 game with RG3. Although they've been really down to the wire. I mean, I don't trust the Vikings with that bubble. I mean, they have that really good defense, but that's all they have going for them. I'm sure they might hold Kirk Cousins down, but you really think Sam Bradford's going to do anything against that Redskins defense? Oh, no, that is pretty shitty, too. But, of course, the Redskins are at home, too. I mean, I can't really see how the Vikings would somehow pull it off, although I wouldn't be surprised if they do at the same time. But I'm going to say the Redskins will win at 24-21. Then we get to the 4 p.m. games, and we start off with the Dolphins going to the Chargers. Man, the Dolphins have now won 3 in a row. I think all those games, though, were at home, too, so that's an easy answer there. I think they're almost undefeated at home, if I'm correct. I might have to look that up, too. But, of course, they got to go to the Chargers, who are unbelievably the best. I mean, I think one of the best last-place teams in the league, only at 4-5. They've already matched their wins record from last year. They did a really good job against the Titans. And don't the Dolphins have like one of the worst run defenses in the league? Ooh, Melvin Gordon, he'll run down their asses all day. And of course, the Chargers have a very, very good history against the Dolphins like this last decade. They've absolutely demolished and embarrassed them when they host them. And I think that will happen here. And they'll get the 500 for the second time this year. 42-17. And it's the 49ers going to the Cardinals. What does this say? The Cardinals will win 47-10. That's all I gotta say. And it's an old rivalry for the Super Bowl. And of course, probably overhyped since they've lost 3 in a row now. And that's the Cowboys going to the Steelers. I mean, the Cowboys still remain easily the number 1 team in the NFC at the moment. But I think they're starting to be in a bubble too. I mean, a lot of their games were really close. And I mean, I didn't expect them to go 7-1 for crying out loud. I think they're going to eventually lose again. And I think when they do lose, they will eventually come back to earth and start regressing back. I wouldn't be surprised if they may have a losing record to finish out the last 8 games of the year. But they might have given them just enough of a lead to still get a playoff spot at least, if they're lucky enough to win the NFC East. And the Steelers have now lost 3 in a row, although I predict them to lose all those 3 games. So I don't know why the media is like, oh, the Steelers are trouble. Crying out, man. But I think the Steelers will win and finally pop that Cowboys bubble, 27-16. And hopefully if Cowboys do lose, they won't be stupid to start Romo and even make that possible losing record for the end of the year even more worse. With Prescott the rest of the year. I've been saying it since fucking preseason. And then, oh boy, one of my favorite games when the schedule was first announced, and I couldn't wait to see it. And it was a perfect game for Sunday night and around the perfect time of the year. A Super Bowl 48 rematch from 2 years ago. The Seahawks go into the Patriots. And of course, oh boy, the Bills. I mean, I can't believe the Seahawks just barely beat the Bills. Which, by the way, Bills should have been able to win if they didn't have that bullshit shit what happened with the field goal and crap like that. But of course, the Patriots, they're easily the best team in the NFL. They've dominated pretty much everyone, especially once Brady came back. And the Seahawks have been pretty much struggling the year. I mean, tied the Cardinals, lost to the Saints, lost to the Rams, barely beat the Dolphins, barely beat the Bills, barely beat the Falcons. I mean, come on, most of their wins, even at 5-2-1, they've been very, very close. And then you got to go to a Patriots team who's been dominant the entire year. I mean, it's quite obvious the Patriots are going to win, and I'm going to say 31-21. And then, of course, there'll be the one interesting thing about that game is, will Brady finally throw an interception against LOB? That'll be something. And then we finally get to the Monday night game. I don't know why they ever picked this. And that's the Bengals going to the Giants for the first time since 2008. The Bengals are actually going to finally make their debut in MetLife Stadium, too. Except the last time they was in Giants Stadium, man. Man, I don't know what to say. These teams are just untrustable. The Giants are. Bengals certainly are. But I'm probably gonna. It's probably gonna fall flat in my face when I watch the game, and I would not be surprised if it happens the other way. But I think I'm gonna trust the Bengals a little bit more with this one. I don't know why. I just got a feeling the Giants are just gonna blow it like they always do. Like remember last year, the Giants had 4 games where they had to lead in the fourth quarter and they blew it. I think this is going to be one of those games where they blow it. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals do that too, have the lead and they blow it against the Giants. I mean, the Giants have made comebacks so far this year, so anything can happen. But I think in this one, I'm going to side with the Bengals 24-22. But hey, those are my picks. I believe it was 6 straight winning weeks in a row. Maybe I can get it to 7. And I can't wait for this week. And I can't wait to watch Browns at Ravens tonight. It's going to be